Masechta Makos, Daf Gimel Abin Aleph. We're starting from the second line. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Sagt die Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav. Eight Zomim Misham Lefi Chelkai. Eight Zomim pays according to his portion. Fragt die Amar Rav Misham Lefi Chelkai. What is the kavanah of this hara that he pays according to his portion? If you're going to say the kavanah is the High Mishalom Palga, that when you have two Eidim who are Zomim, and it comes to be in a case where they testify and they were found to be zemim, each one pays a half of the schum that they intended to make the one that they accused to pay. Each one pays half of that money. Tanina, we already learned this din in the Mishnah, that we divide the money. There's one Pirush Mishalshlim, three, meaning it's three people. It's the Bezdin, and Bezdin sees to divide it between the two Eidim who are Muslim, the punishment that they have to pay, that each one pays a chelik, his part, his half, according to the amount of the punishment. But when it comes to Makos, that if two Eidim were Muslim, meaning that they attempted to be somebody be Chai Malchus, and now they have to get Malchus, we don't divide the Malchus between them. Rather, each one gets the full Malchus. Because this foolish thing in the Mishnah that Mechalkim, we only divide of the punishment of Mamein, we divide it according to each aid, according to their chelik. But surely they weren't miskav when they get to Malchus. Ella what? So what was the kavanah if we already learned about aid zem and pays according to his portion in a Mishnah? Says the Gemara, Ella, what's the kavanah of Rav? You're going to Yitazim Chat Minay. That one of the Eidim were Muslim, one of the two Eidim were Muslim, and his friend was not Muslim. So in such a case, the Mishalom Pal the day, that the one that was Muslim pays his chelik, which is his half. Does the one aid who was Muslim, out of the two Eidim, does he then pay anything? Well, Tanya, we learned Tabraisa, Ein Eid Zomim, Mishalom Mamin, Achi Yizum Mishnayim. That one Eid Zayma, if only one out of the two Eidim were Muslim, he doesn't pay anything until both Eidim who testified together were both Muslim. Rava says no. The words of Rav Chiddush is talking about Be'ima Eidish Shekeh Hadati. He comes and he's mazim himself. He's mazim himself. He says at the time when I testified about Ruvain lending $1,000. I was in a certain place, certain day. Bamis, I wasn't in another place at that time. It was impossible for me to have seen and be an aid on how Reuben borrowed money from Shimon. But the second aid stands in his aidus. He says, no, it's true. So in such a case, Rav has come to teach us that the aid who is Mazim himself, he pays Kasher Zama. In fact, you better call him in, hey. Does the aid have the koyach to be mevatel his first aidus? Once an aid tells over aidus, he cannot retract from his first testimony. And since he doesn't have the power to retract, so how could you say that he's going to pay according to his chelik and we're going to believe him on his we'll believe his retraction? If we know that aid cannot be chayzo magid. He cannot retract from his first testimony. Ella, you have to say, what was the pshat of Rav? Be'oima hi'adnu u'huzamnu be'beis dimpleni, that we testified, me and my friend, to be mechayiv somebody $1,000, and then we will Muslim. We will Muslim in Bezdin, that certain Bezdin. And before the Bezdin gave the psak, we ran to another Bezdin. I ran to another Bezdin, and I testified. I was made that we were Muslim. Me and my friend were Muslim. So on himself, he's only believed, not on his friend. So that's where he pays his portion. Come on, whom was of which Tanoim is this beer gonna fit? The loik Rabbi Akiva cannot follow Rabbi Akiva, and we know the halach is like Rabbi Akiva. Dik Rabbi Akiva, and if we follow Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva had said befesh, "Avenim shalim al piyatzmei." We know that even if he's murder in another bezdin, on it, but he himself is testifying about himself, we said once he's made in another bezdin that he was Muslim before bezdin gave up psak, that's called made b'knas, and one who was made b'knas is supposed to be patul gamri. So how could you say that Rav was saying in this case he would pay his chelik if it's a case of made b'knas, according to Rabbi Akiva, and the halacha is like Rabbi Akiva, and surely Rav would not say against what the halacha was. So really the words of Rav is talking about not only do we testify were we Muslim in that Bezdin, but Bezdin gave a psak that we have to pay mamain, and after we became mechuyev in paying the money, so he ran to another Bezdin, and he was made at the Bezdin that he was mechuyev to pay. So once he was made that he was mechuyev to pay, it's not any of knas. Once Bezdin gave a psak that he has to pay, it became a monetary issue. It's not a knas anymore. It's not a criminal issue that he's getting a knas. Well, it's a monetary issue. It's mamain. And by mamain, if somebody does baltin, if he's made by mamain, he has to pay. And since he was made that he owes the money, he has to pay his chelik. And what's the chiddush? I would have thought to say, since he cannot be mechayiv his friend through him being made, that he and his friend were not only Muslim but Bezdin gave up psak that they owe money. So I would have thought, since he's not believed to testify about his friend, so his friend is not going to be chayiv. He too should not be chayiv, because the din is by edim zemim. One ein zoimam does not pay mamain till acha yazumu shnei edim, till both edim are muzam. Kamash malan. That's why Rav is coming to teach us. Once Bezdin gave a psak din that the chayiv to pay, it became a mamain issue, and an aid. It's not anymore in the get of aid zoimam of knas. Rather, it's a of mamain, and he's made that he owes the money, and therefore he pays lefi chalkei. Testify that person divorced his wife, and he became a chuyv to pay his ksuba, and it's known that the ksuba, he didn't give the ksuba. It's talking about a case that he's being makish, he's denying the aid, and he's saying he never divorced his wife. So if he says he never divorced his wife, obviously he never gave the ksuba. Then we found these Eidim who testified that he got divorced, or Eidim Zemimim. So they try to make him be Chayv Ksuba. Do we say the Eidim Zemim can pay Kasha Zamam? Says the Gemara, do they have to pay the whole Ksuba? Says the Gemara, no. It says the Mishnah. We know even without the Eidis, there's a big possibility he's going to have to give the Ksuba in some time. Either he will die in her lifetime, so the ksuba will go to her, or he will divorce her. So really, they didn't make him lose that much in their testimony. Says the Mishnah, what's the payment the Eidim Zayim have to pay? Says the Mishnah, we evaluate how much a person is ready to give b'ksubasa shalishazu, the ksuba of this woman, shehim nesamuna in his gasha, that if she was widowed or she got divorced, then they would they would pay for the ksuba to collect it based on that he would die first or he will divorce her. And if she dies in the lifetime of the baila, Yerushana baila, then the husband will inherit everything. So he won't have to pay anything of the ksuba, and the buyer will lose money. So the buyer is taking a risk. So of course, since the buyer is taking a risk, he's paying a cheaper price. So according to the cheaper price, that's what the Eidim Zayim have to pay. In fact, what does it mean a cheaper price? How do we evaluate the ksuba? Says Hagdama, his chus is greater than her chus. Why? His chus in the ksuba, number one, he gets to eat from the field as long as he doesn't give the ksuba. So that's one merit he has. And number two, he doesn't have, there's no challenge of collection. By the Isha, her side, even if he were to die first, or he were to divorce her, she has there's a challenge of collections. So that's it. So it's two inyanim that the husband has over the Isha. Number one, he's a muhsik already in the kaka. He doesn't have to go through the challenge of collections. Number two, he gets to eat from the ksuba, from the fields of the ksuba. So his chus is greater. So Mashal, his chus is, let's say, worth 600, and his chus is worth 400. So who do we evaluate? How do we evaluate? We evaluate the ksuba of the Baal, meaning the how much his is worth. Is even though his side is worth 600, but how much would a person buy his chus? Not for 600, they would buy it for 500 at a discount, because it's a risk. Who says that he will end up getting the ksuba? Maybe she will end up. Rav Nosson says, no, Be'isha, we evaluate the woman's chus of the ksuba, and her chus is only 400, and being that, and that's what we deduct. We deduct her chelik, and the rest has to be given to the Baal. Why don't we pay what the Isha's chus is? Because we would say we have to make the Edom pay kashazomim, like they wanted to do to the accused. Who is the one that they are accusing? The husband. So the husband's side of the ksuba, so it has to be paid. Meaning we deduct what the husband would have anyway paid for her to get out of the ksuba in order to keep the whole ksuba for himself. He would pay 400, he would gladly pay 400, and the remainder goes to the husband. That's why we would make the Edom Zemin pay 600. So that's according to Rav Nosson. According to Rav Chizda, no, you pay less, because we don't evaluate hers and we deduct hers, and the rest has to be paid to the husband. His ksuba is untouched. No. Rav Chizda says we evaluate his chelik of the ksuba, and we negotiate a discount on his chelik. Let's say it was 600, so it goes down to 500. That's what the Edom Zemin have to pay. Our Papa said, we evaluate the Isha's side, and we deduct her chelik, and whatever's left over here, if the chelik, let's say it's 400, there's 600 left, that's what the Edom Zemin have to pay. Ubi ksubasa, the kavanah means that he pays the extra schum that's set in the ksuba. That means the ikik ksuba, which is 200 for psula, and the teisefes of the ksuba, and the nichsei tzrein basel. Nichsei tzrein basel is fields that she's coming into the marriage with, so they put it into the ksuba, that if it appreciates, he makes the profit. If it depreciates, he has to pay it back. They evaluate the property at that time. He has to give the property at the same value that when she got married, at the time that they wrote it in the ksuba, that's the value he has to give it back at. And normally there's a profit. So here, he lost that profit. That's the only part that the Edom Zemin have to pay for. But not for Nichsim Eluk. Nichsim Eluk are Nechasim that she inherited after the wedding. So that Nichsim Eluk, even though he would normally get to eat the paytas, but being that they testified he got divorced, they cut him short from eating the paytas of those fields that she inherited after the marriage. So let the Edom Zemin have to pay for that. So we say no, because that's not written in the ksuba. That's something that the Edom who were Muslim did not know about, and we could only punish them on what their intentions were, and definitely their intentions were not to make him lose the Nichsim Eluk. And if everybody knew that he had Nichsim Eluk, there's a clang in the gas, there was a tumult that everybody knew that he has Nichsim Eluk, then the Edom Zemin would have to pay for that as well. They testify that that person owes his friend 1,000 zuz on the condition to the Edom say it was only for a 30-day loan. But the lady says, what? It was a loan for 10 years. Says the Gemara, so the Edom say, and then there were Muslim, these Edom, and really it was for 10 years. So the Edom have to pay the difference, how much a person would pay to have 1,000 zuz for 30 days versus 10 years. Of course, a person would pay more. That difference, the Edom Zemin will have to pay. Rabbi Yehuda said, one who lends his friend money, a schum of money for 10 years, Shvi is mishamit the whole loan. Says the Gemara, even though at the time of Shemitah, wasn't this man for collection, and lo yigas means you shouldn't press him, but he's not pressing him at shmita. So I would have thought the whole Indian that shmita is mishamit because in order to, it's in the same time of lo yigas, at the time when he's pressing him to pay. That's when the shvis is mishamit. But if the lo yigas doesn't happen at the year of shmita, happens later, I would say maybe shvis is not mishamit. So it says the Gemara, Seif Asi Day Lo Yigas. He says Bepel Mamish. At the end, this chay will come to the Isa of Lo Yigas. He holds it is mishamit, even though the time of Lo Yigas doesn't happen till after. Nevertheless, Rabbi Yehuda says that the shmita is going to be mishamit. Must Rav Kana is a shaila on the Hira of Shmuel. I mean, I meant to say it was Shmuel before. So Rav Kana is the kasher on the Hira of Shmuel that shmita is mishamit, even though Lo Yigas doesn't happen, and the year of shmita, even though it happens later. So it says in our Mishnah, even Kama Adam Reitzelitan, the year Elav Zilz B'Yad Ben Litan Kama Ad Shlish Miyayim Ben Litan Kama Ad Esashanim. In the Mishnah, we said the only thing that they didn't have to pay is the difference between paying for a loan for a loan of $1,000 for 30 days, versus how much a person would pay to have a loan of $1,000 for 10 years. That's all he has to pay. But if you're going to say the shvis is mishamit, when he made the halva for 10 years, so he wasn't going to owe him anything. And he said it was for 30 days. They said it was only for 30 days, so he has to pay the whole halva. In fact, they should have to pay for the whole $1,000 because officially his deal was for 10 years, meaning that he wouldn't have to pay back the chayv at all because it would go through Shemitah. So why did the Mishnah say he only has to pay the difference between having a loan of $1,000 of 30 days versus 10 years? It should be much more. You should have to pay the whole $1,000 because if the truth was that he had it for 10 years, he wouldn't owe the $1,000 at all. And the Mayaskin over here is talking about the Malval HaMashkin, that he lent against the Mashkin. Or he made a principle that he's giving all his studies to Bezdin. That's the principle that he was Masakim in order that Shvi shouldn't be Meshamid. Says the Gemara, it's not that we learned the Mishnah. Somebody who lends money against the mashkin, he holds a mashkin against the money, or he gives all his studies for Bezdin to collect, which is the approval. Then Shemitah is not Mishamid. That's what our Mishnah is talking about, and that's why our Mishnah said he only has to pay. They don't have to pay only the difference between holding $1,000 for 30 days and being able to hold up $1,000 for 10 years. Rabbi Yehuda said, name of Shmuel, one who lends his friend for 10 years, Shviz doesn't take away the money. Even though at the end he'll come and press him for the money, but now in the time of Shemitah, the pressing him for the money is not happening in the year of Shemitah. And the Haba tell you that each one is connected to the other. The only time that Shemitah will be Mishamit if it's a time that he's pressing him if that time in Shemitah he's pressing him for the money, then Shemitah is Mishamit. But if he's not going to press him in the year of Shemitah, the loan is not due until many years after Shemitah, so then we hold that Shemitah is not Mishamit. I have proof that the Shemitah is not Mishamit because in the Mishnah it says, how much we evaluate for the Eidim Zevin to pay, how much a person would pay. That they would pay the difference of a person holding $1,000 for 30 days versus holding $1,000 for 10 years. Says now if you're going to say Shvis Mishamatatoy, that Shvis is Mishamit, so how could the Mishnah say that he only pays the difference between 30 days and 10 years? He should have to pay all, the whole alva. If Shemitah would be Mishamit, he would have to pay the whole $1,000. So Zaraya says the Kedamri that we hold that if the payment is not due till after the years of Shemitah, the year of Shemitah, then the Shemitah is not going to be Meshamid. Says the Gemara, the Gemara shlugs it up. Hach Maiskin, we can say our Mishnah is talking about the Malva la Mashkin, Uba Maisishtayis the Bezdin. It's talking about that he lent against the Mashkin, or there was a prusbul. That's not that we lent the Mishnah. Malva la Mashkin, Maisishtayis the Bezdin, Nashmite. One who lends against the Mashkin, or somebody who does a prusbul, then Shemitah is not Meshamid. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. And Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. One who says to his friend, I'm lending you money, on the condition that Shviyas shouldn't be Chal. Says the Gemara, Shviyas Mishametis. The Shviyas will confiscate the money, and he doesn't have to pay back the loan. Says the Gemara, Shmuel, should we say that Shmuel holds that a Malval T'nai Kazeh Masna Masha Kasbatero? He's making a t'nai against what the Torah says. So one who makes a t'nai against what the Torah against the din of a Torah, his t'nai is batal, and therefore, if he made a t'nai that the din of shvi shouldn't be chal, that's going against the Torah, and therefore, it's the t'nai is batal, and the shvi is mishamet the whole chayv. He doesn't have to pay back the loan. And the Gemara is going to prove that we don't say like Shmuel. We learn not like Shmuel. One who says to his friend, I'm lending you money, I'm selling you this item, but on the condition that you don't have the tviya of me cheating you or more than the 6. Then the halacha is that he has the tviya, and that he has the tviya that he cheated him, and he has to give him back if he wants it back, or pay him back for what he cheated. Shmuel says that the Tanai did help, and he doesn't collect, and he can't have a taina that you cheated me and pay me back for what you cheated me, or take back the item that you sold me. So we see, according to Shmuel says he can make a Tanai against the Torah. We already said about this Haydah of Shmuel ben Ageya by the Tanai of Ainah, Amar Abanam. The Shmuel. To me, it was explained through Shmuel himself that there's a chilik how the lashon is said, and how the lashon of the Tanai is said. If the Lekech said Amanash ein lecha alai Ainah, then ein loy alav tvi Ainah. If he said that you don't have on me Ainah, meaning that you're meichel, there is a din of Ainah, but you're meichel the Ainah, then he doesn't. Then he can't come back with a taina that you cheated me. Amanasha ein bayana. But what's if he uses the lashon on the condition that there is no Ainah? But says Gemara, then it's batal because areish bayana. We see beferish he's lying that the meicha did cheat the lekeach. So Shmuel says over there he will have a three of Ainah. But in the first case, he says, on the condition that you meichel me the Ainah, you don't have a me. There's a din Ainah, but you don't have a me. I mean that meaning that you meichel the Ainah. There's a din Ainah, but you meichel me. Then then the Tanai is batal. The Tanai, is good, and he cannot come with a Tanai of Ainah. Says one of Hachanami. So too here. If he says on the condition that in the year of Shviyas, the Shemitah shouldn't take away the Chayv, that you should still hold me back, then Ein Shviyas Meshamatay. Then the Shviyas is not Meshamit, because this Lashon is a T'nai, that the Leiva, the borrower, should be Meichel, the one who is borrowing the money should be Meichel, on the schus that he has, that you normally, the Shviyas is Mavatal the Chayv, and he's meichel that schus that he has, and he doesn't have to pay it. But if he says Amanash Leita Shamtini Shviyas, but if he says on the condition that the din of Shviyas shouldn't be Chal, not that Bishviyas in the year of Shviyas where Shviyas is Chal, I want you to be meichel me that it shouldn't be Meshamet. Over here, Amanash Leita Shamtini Shviyas means that the din of Shviyas shouldn't be applicable Shvi's mishamatay. Then Shvi's confiscates the loan, and the Levi does not have to pay, because that's already he's going against the din Torah. Tona, we learned the Braisa Amalas Chaveir Stam. One who lends his friend Stam without specifying a time, a deadline. He cannot claim the money less than 30 days. Says the Gemara, while he was in front of Rav, thought to say, Hanimili, when do we say he cannot collect within the 30 days, when it was written in a star? Because a person, it doesn't bother and writes a star for less for a loan which is less than 30 days. But if it was a loan, the din is that the malva could be tevei even within 30 days. Rav said back, Chavibi means uncle. So said my uncle Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia was Rav's uncle. He, in the finish of the words of Baraisa, he says, whether it's a milva b'shtar or alpeh, the halacha is the malva cannot collect before 30 days. Tanya Nami Hach, we learned in the Baraisa similarly, somebody who lends money stop without specifying a time for a deadline for the chayv, he cannot claim less than 30 days. Whether it's a milva b'shtar or a milva alpeh. Shmuel said to have masna do not sit on your feet. Adam Mefarish law, the Hosh might till he explained this sugya. Where did the Rabbanon learn that Hamal was Chavir Stam in Shalom Tevi Pas Mishleshim Yom Echnamal Ve'Echnamil V'Alpeh? Where do we know one who lends his friend Stam without specifying a deadline? He cannot claim within 30 days whether it's a Milva Bishtar or Alpeh, or it's without a star. Amalei, Ramasa said to Shmuel, it says by Shmitas Ksafim, it says Kavish Nasa Shava. The 7th year is coming close. Nasa Shmita, the year of Shmita. In fact, there's a Shaila, in Mashma Shadama, Kavish Nasa Shava, from this that it says that 7th year is coming close. Any Yedei Shish Nasa Shmita, don't I understand that he's referring to the year of Shmita? Alamat Tamad Leim Shnas Shmita. What is he saying with the word Shnas Shmita? He says these words are coming to tell you yes shmita acheres. There's another type of a shmita where the malva cannot collect his chayv. Shehi kazul, which is similar to the shmita year. Ve'eza, which is this shmita? Ve'eza which is this shmita? So he answers, Hamalvas chavei stam, where one lends his friend without specifying a deadline. He cannot collect within the 30 days. Within the 30 days is considered the year of shmita. The Mama, for the Tana had said, when you get to the years of Allah, that if he planted 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, and then when Rosh Hashanah reaches, it's as if 1 year of Natiyah passed, 1 out of the 3 years. It says 3 years. You're not allowed to have a no from a plantation. So the 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, if you plant it with before 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, and 30 days goes by, that's the first year of the Natiyah of the tree. That is considered as already the first year that you didn't have a no. Somebody opens up a cloth for the opening for the head to put it inside the middle of the cloth. He's chayiv because with making this opening, he was makabeh patish. He finished a kli. He made it a cloth that you can wear. It became a levush, and that's also because of melachas makabeh patish. We should say that the is because of kareya. And in the Bi'alach over there explains why shouldn't say Paisatzawa be over Shemelach's kareya? Either because it's kilkul. Okay, you have to look up over there. Let me go for chavis. How is opening up a cloth in the middle of the baguette any different than cutting off a cover from a barrel that was sealed? Amalei. So the Gemara says, what? You can't compare Zechibur by the cloth. It was natural. It's not something that was originally not there, and then they put it together, that opening. It's one piece of cloth that they, for the first time, opened it. But by the Chavis, it wasn't a natural seal. It was something that was open, and then he closed it with a seal. So that's different. Such a case, it's not going to be considered as tikkun kli, because before this chavis was already opened on the top.